For years, it seemed like NBA 2K was a dying series. Of course, financially speaking, the games sell better and better every year, but the excessive microtransactions, the lack of attention to detail in the secondary game modes, the declining graphical quality and detail, and the recent regression with gameplay in NBA 2K25 had me ready to make a video covering the fall of the NBA 2K series. Unexpectedly, NBA 2K26 has stopped me from finishing that video, at least for the time being. The microtransactions are as aggressive as ever. I completely disagree with how the game monetizes my career. My NBA is still just as broken as last year, and 2K hasn't addressed any of the issues I brought up from this video here I made last December. But the gameplay is a massive step forward. And it's so freaking fun, man. If you thought NBA 2K25 was unrealistically sluggish, well, 2K26 is unrealistically fast, and I definitely prefer the latter to the former. Gameplay is the core of any sports game, and while defense is pretty tough to play, and the radically different gameplay speed makes offense overpowered, this results in a much more fun game, something more similar to 2K19, or even 2K14 or 15. A major issue I had with NBA 2K25 was that players like Anthony Edwards couldn't explode to the basket like you'd see in real life, and instead he, and everyone else, moved like current-day DeAndre Jordan. Shooting was also terrible, as the default arrow meter looked and felt stupid to me, and I barely played 2K25 as a result. I spent a lot of time revisiting 2K14 and 15 instead, and I had a lot of fun doing so. Now with NBA 2K26, when the ball is in your hands, the possibilities of what you can do on offense feel endless. The court becomes a canvas, and the player becomes your paintbrush. This freedom of player movement is similar to College Football 25, in the sense that it feels limitless, and basically any move or crossover you can find in the actual NBA is possible to replicate here. I want to make a note that I'm not a super competitive online player. If NBA 2K to you is more about the park than playing in actual NBA arenas, there are probably more relevant reviews out there for you than this one. So while I can see the inconsistency with closeouts and defending jump shots being frustrating for those expecting a perfectly balanced online competitive game, I personally am fine with the hyper-fluid offensive domination of gameplay, as it results in gameplay that I find really fun and engaging. Despite my praise of gameplay, this is still not a game I would recommend to all of my viewers for its full price, and by no means is it a must-buy or sports game of the year. So far this year, I've reviewed PGA Tour 2K25, MLB The Show 25, College Football 26, and Madden 26. MLB The Show 25 remains my highest scored sports game of the year so far, and 2K26 isn't changing that, although it's certainly better than Madden 26 or even College Football 26. The over-monetization of NBA 2K is as big of an issue as ever, and when making a competitive build in Park costs more than the base price of the game, you have a serious problem. Outside of gameplay, not much has changed, and the hope is that future NBA 2K titles focus more on the rest of the game now that gameplay is in a pretty good spot. 2K still has a long way to go before we're back to the glory days, but at least the game has taken serious steps forward with gameplay. Let's dive in. This is the biggest change this year, and the best part of the game in my opinion. Fast players fly down the court and teleport to the rim, passes are quick and snappy, and the game genuinely feels brand new on the court. It feels more fluid than any new 2K that I can remember. Dom 2K, who I'm sure most of you have watched before, has been doing a realistic playstyle mini-series on Twitter, where he shares examples of him playing with NBA players realistically, emulating their real-life style, rather than trying to cheese the game, and these clips look fantastic. And while user defense takes a while to master, CPU AI also feels drastically improved, so you can get clamped down, but unlike in recent years, the defenders don't stick to you unrealistically, as smart basketball and top players can get you space. It feels like 2K has almost mastered gameplay. Some tweaks to defense, closeout, shooting, and sliding and skating are needed, but I'm pretty satisfied with the gameplay this year. You could argue that it leans too much towards being arcade, but when every player has signature animations and really does play like themselves, I think this qualifies as a sim game even with the speedy gameplay. I found defense easier after some updates as well. The key is to not hold L2 or sprint, and instead make use of the right stick to contest and stick on your man. Steals are very difficult to pull off online, however. The shooting meter is more similar to 2K23, and while you still need to green to make a shot with very few exceptions, the green window is larger and easier to hit on open looks, so it doesn't feel as cutthroat as previous years. A big issue I had with 2K25 was that it left casual players behind. Unlike in, say, NBA 2K14, you couldn't just jump into a play-now game with little experience and start hitting threes and making flashy dunks, even with a player like LeBron. The game was too difficult for someone who hadn't played or practiced 2K in a while, even offline, and they'd likely brick all of their shots. 2K26 still has a high skill gap online, and shooting is way more difficult online than offline, but it also allows for new or inexperienced players to quickly jump into a game and have success scoring on offense. 2K was smart to focus on this because it seemed like they were catering exclusively to the competitive online hardcore crowd last year, which resulted in a game that was more balanced and predictable online, but played less like an actual NBA simulation, which is what this game is at the end of the day. You don't have to green to make shots on lower difficulties offline as well. 2K has a strong reliance on animations with gameplay, so the sluggish speed of 2K25 made it feel like you were watching animations play out rather than actually controlling your player. The improved speed and fluidity of 2K26 helps mask this, as the animations happen so quickly, it rarely feels like you don't have immediate control of your player. There is still sliding and skating as players are pulled into animations, but the overall feel is so fluid that it almost feels physics-based. It's an illusion, but an effective one. A sports game's ideal purpose is to make the player feel the sport. At least that used to be their purpose before microtransactions became a thing. NBA 2K26 does a much better job at replicating the feel of the NBA than any recent 2K, and that's why I'll be playing 26 a lot more this year compared to previous years. My career is actually really good this year when it comes to the story. It's not forced onto you and is completely optional if you just want to play Park in the City, but it has a lot more care and effort put into the story than we've seen in a long time, maybe even since 2K16. It has some artsy moments like this intro, which did not need to go that hard, and the storyline is genuinely engaging and fun to play through. The writing is solid. Look at me cooking with Joe Foreskin, I can't miss. You can also design your own My Court, which is new, and it shows off the improved lighting and reflections compared to last year's game. That being said, the city is way too big, tedious to walk through, and it costs $100 to make a new competitive build for the park, and even more money if you want to give them unique clothes so you don't look like a 60 overall, which is important or no one will join you for a game. If you make a center and realize you'd rather be a power forward, either pay $100 to make one, or make a 60 overall one for free and grind your ass off. I hate how over-monetized this mode is, and I hate how it's tied into the offline parts of my career. I should be able to make a 99 overall my player and play through the story if I'm only playing offline. That should be an option. It's really strange that the main story mode for a fully priced video game forces you to start as a 60 overall. That said, you can adjust the difficulty to make it easier to score offline, but you don't get the flashy animations or the badges until you pay up or grind like crazy. Personally, I don't play in the park much unless I'm squatting up with friends, so if you're a competitive park guy, there are probably better, more in-depth reviews out there for you when it comes to that. I can't get myself to pay another $100 to make another meta build with high stats when I already paid $100 for the game itself, so I really don't touch park that much if I'm being honest. My GM returns, and it's similar to last year, although now you get the choice of taking over a team as is, or going back a few months before the draft with some custom storylines. You can walk around your office, but it's not that necessary, and the mode is basically identical to My NBA, with a slight GM focus, where you answer some questions and make some big picture decisions every now and then, along with the physical office space. My NBA has a light option for those who find the mode too complex and want something more like an EA Sports franchise mode, and My NBA itself is a really good mode in theory. My Eras came out in 2K23 and was an incredible innovation for a sports game, letting users jump into the past and play through the years with retro broadcast filters matching the era, The social media feed starts as a newspaper. The G League doesn't appear until 01, for example. Each team has mostly accurate rosters with starting fives. The official draft classes are there. You can sign LeBron to the Celtics during the decision, or you could never allow the Raptors to join the NBA. As years go on, rule changes, team branding, and relocation all happens as it did in real life, but you have the ability to override it and change history. Now, this mode hasn't really been touched since 2K23. They added some small tweaks like giving certain player models multiple versions as they age, like MJ and Kobe going bald as they age, but the core mode and its logic remains unchanged. That means all the issues I pointed out in my video from December about my NBA being broken are still present, which is a bummer. Roster rating inflation, poor CPU IQ, which results in teams signing multiple top players of the same position while ignoring the rest of their roster, teams don't realistically accept qualifying offers or sign their draft picks, and every other issue I discussed in that video are still present. This should be the best mode in the game, and honestly in any sports game, because its potential is top notch. But unless you don't really care about realism, or you do a ton of manual work keeping things accurate, you're going to notice a lot of immersion-breaking issues with how the CPU handles most situations. So while this mode is really cool, these issues haven't been fixed. So you might as well get 2K23 or 24 for cheap if this mode is the main reason you buy the game and you don't own those games already. My team now has WNBA players alongside NBA players, so Angel Reese can rebound her own misses and then pass out to Luka for 3. While some don't like this, in a fantasy mode like my team where you have Wilt Chamberlain playing next to Dylan Brooks, I think it works and gets WNBA players more mainstream recognition, so I like it. I hate that playing Triple Threat Online, however, forces you to go into another park and wait around. But you can at least play offline quickly without doing that. And with the Season Pass, the mode is more monetized than ever before, although with locker codes you can usually field a decent enough team throughout the year. I just can't stand how many game modes are pay to win in this fully priced video game. Blacktop is the same as last year, so it's cluttered and difficult to see what team is which because both sides use colors. One is short-sleeved, one is long-sleeved. They should bring back the old Blacktop where players just wore home or away jerseys. I know most don't play this mode because it's only offline, but it's great when a friend comes over and you don't want to play a full game. When the trailer for the game released, I thought it looked terrible, but when playing, the game really doesn't look that bad. Compared to 2K14, the lighting is still behind, but compared to last year's 2K25, it at least has more shine and reflective qualities. It's an improvement, but still not where it should be, as it still feels dull and flat, just less so. Pre-game national anthems, team warm-ups, players celebrating after tough shots, and motion blur all combine for some pretty good presentation, although it's not that different from previous years. The halftime show with Ernie, Shaq, and Kenny is actually still present, but only in the My NBA mode. So in regular play now or online modes, you get a more streamlined and basic presentation package. If you want the most immersive and in-depth presentation possible, play My NBA. My only complaint with the in-game presentation is the scoreboard. I like the style, but not the size or shape. I think it would look way better centered and not as long, and the extra space instead becomes a ticker that pops up below. The main menu is pretty basic, just showing some clips of rendered visuals of players dribbling or celebrating, along with ads for the Season Pass, but the soundtrack is really solid in my opinion. Overall, presentation in NBA 2K is better than every other sports game out there, and it really shines when playing My NBA in older eras like the Jordan era. It's still a strength, but hopefully more attention is given to lighting and graphics to get closer to that photorealistic vibe that 2K14 had with its lighting. NBA 2K26 is a drastic improvement to 2K25 on the court, but the other core issues remain. While I gave 2K25 a 5 out of 10 last year at launch, as time went on, I started to dislike gameplay more and more, and I'd probably give 2K25 a 4 out of 10 today. For NBA 2K26, I'm feeling a 5.5 out of 10. This is not a great sports game, and the aggressive microtransactions continue to shock me, but the gameplay is genuinely a good time, and that's the core of any sports game, so it must be weighed heavily. Hopefully next year 2K focuses more on graphics, presentation, and polishing their game modes like my NBA, and we might have the best 2K in a long time, assuming the microtransactions don't completely ruin the vibe, which they very well could. But for now, I'm surprised 2K26 is as fun as it is, and I'm glad I can actually play 2K this year without wanting to die. Is it worth $70 or more? Probably not. But when the game inevitably goes on sale during the holidays, I'd say it's worth buying, especially if you haven't played it in a few years. Stay tuned for my review on NASCAR 25, which comes next, and thanks for watching.